The restaurant was loud the way only graduation dinners can be. 80 seniors crammed into a private room at Westlake's nicest steakhouse. Half of them already buzzed on something the staff pretended not to notice. Cara stood at the head of the table like she always did. Tan from spring break, hair pulled into that careless half bun that took her 40 minutes. The room quieted the second she lifted her phone.
Okay, listen up. 3 options for the senior trip. Route A, Blue Ridge by charter bus. Route B, Scenic Highway, 2-day drive. Route C, bus to base camp, then whitewater rafting on the Snake Fork.
I felt every option land in my chest like a separate stone. Route A, the bus that went off there. 42 dead. I had been 17 years old and screaming. Route B, the head-on collision. Only Cara walked away. They burned her alive online for 6 months before she stepped off her balcony. Route C, the blown tire on the descent. Just me and Cara that time. We both died on the rocks below. I had lived through all three different deaths, 3 different lifetimes spent learning what Cara Whitlock actually wanted from me. This was the 4th. Sitting next to me, Sierra leaned forward, propping her chin on her hand.
Mia, you in?
I set my fork down. The heavy silver clicked against the porcelain plate, a sharp punctuation mark in the noisy dining room.
I'm not going.
The table didn't fall silent. At the far end, someone choked on their Coke. Devin, a guy who had spent 4 long years copying my calculus homework, laughed loudly, waving his greasy hands in the air.
Come on! She probably just can't afford the $90 anyway. I heard her dad is just some low-end mall security guard, and her mom is bound to a wheelchair. Let's not ruin the senior vibe for a charity case.
A ripple of cruel, low laughter rolled down the long table. They actually thought their playground insults mattered. I had died 3 times. I had seen Devin's face crushed against a shattered windshield. Their insults felt like whispers from ghosts. Cara didn't laugh. Her perfect sun-kissed face froze, and that signature influencer smile became a rigid porcelain mask. Her eyes locked onto mine, tracking me like a predator sizing up its prey. She leaned over the table, tilting her head to that perfectly practiced angle.
Oh, Devin, don't say that. Mia's family situation is complicated. We all know that. Mia, if it's about the money, you should have just told me privately. I can totally cover your share. I don't want you to feel left out just because things are tight at home.
It was a masterclass in passive-aggressive cruelty. In one breath, she had confirmed the rumor of my poverty, branded me a charity case, and elevated herself to a benevolent savior. Across the table, Ethan finally looked up from his phone. His dark eyes met mine, and for a fraction of a second, something rotten and familiar flared between us. Ethan, my childhood neighbor, the boy who used to share his lunch with me in 3rd grade, now Cara's loyal dog.
We'll talk about it after dinner.
The tone wasn't an invitation, it was a verdict. The whispers broke out across the private room like a sudden plague.
Wow, Cara's so sweet.
Yeah, Mia's being such a bitch about it.
They pitied me, the poor girl with the security guard father. I almost smiled. My dad was indeed in security, but he owned the firm managing 2,000 elite guards with corporate contracts downtown. My mother's paintings regularly fetched 6 figures. We lived low-key because my parents hated the noise. But these people genuinely believed I was a charity case. Before I could speak, a chair scraped harshly against the hardwood floor. Ethan stood up, walking around the long table until he was hovering over my seat. The heavy, expensive scent of his cologne filled my space. Without a word, he reached down and snatched my phone straight off the table. I had unlocked it moments earlier to check a text from my mom, and the screen was still bright.
Stop throwing a tantrum, Mia. You're ruining the night.
With a few quick, aggressive taps, he opened Venmo. He knew my passcode from all the nights I had spent tutoring him in his kitchen, watching me unlock my screen. He dialed in the amount $88 and transferred it directly to Cara's account with the note Mia's senior trip. He tossed the phone back onto the table like it was a piece of trash, narrow eyes filled with unhidden disgust. It clattered loudly against my water glass.
There. It's paid. Stop making a scene. If you keep acting like this, I won't bother looking out for you when we get to college.
I reached for my water glass, my hand perfectly steady. I had died 3 times. I had seen Devin's face crushed against a shattered windshield. I had seen Ethan's body charred to a crisp. Route 9. Their insults felt like whispers from ghosts. I had no idea why the universe kept resetting my life, or what cosmic joke was being played on me. I didn't know the mechanics behind my rebirths. I only knew one thing with absolute chilling certainty. I was done playing along with Cara's games.
The money is not the point. Refund it, don't refund it, that's between you and your conscience. But I'm still not going.
I stood up, slinging my backpack over one shoulder. I didn't glance at the 80 pairs of eyes tracking my movement, nor did I look at Cara, whose tear-stained victim act face was already being comforted by the surrounding girls. I walked out of the steakhouse, leaving behind the suffocating warmth of their collective delusion. I got home at 10. The house was quiet, bathed in the soft, warm glow of the kitchen light. My mom was already in bed, resting her fragile legs, but my dad was sitting at the kitchen island. He was methodically peeling an orange. The rhythmic slice of the knife was the only sound in the room. He looked up as I walked in, his sharp eyes assessing my posture.
Good dinner?
It was fine.
He lingered on me for a long second, the silent understanding of a man who managed thousands of people for a living passing between us. I almost told him then. I almost told him everything. About the cliffs, the collisions, the blood on the asphalt. Instead, I just gave him a tired smile, went upstairs, and locked my bedroom door. The second I turned on my Wi-Fi, the class group chat exploded with notifications. 200 new messages, mostly piling onto me.
Mia Mendoza, you didn't answer. Mia Mendoza? Hello?
I scrolled through them with clinical detachment. At 10:30, my phone buzzed with an incoming call, Ethan. I let it ring 3 full times, watching his name flash on the screen like a relic from a past I had already outgrown, before finally sliding the bar to answer.
Why the hell are you doing this, Mia?
Doing what, Ethan?
Cara's been crying for an hour. You know, she planned this whole senior trip with you in mind. She even booked the exact cabin in Blue Ridge you said you wanted back in junior year. She's been working on this for months.
I stared into the darkness of my room, a cold, mocking smirk tugging at the corner of my lips.
Junior year, Ethan? We didn't exchange a single word in junior year. In fact, she spent most of that winter spreading rumors to the volleyball team that I was obsessively throwing myself at her boyfriend. Do you honestly expect me to believe she built this itinerary out of love?
The line went completely dead for a few seconds. I could hear the sharp, ragged rhythm of his breathing. We had grown up 4 houses down from each other, riding the same yellow school bus since we were 6 years old. I knew exactly what that hitch in his throat meant. It was the sound of him losing control, realizing that his usual weapons, guilt and historical gaslighting, no longer worked on me.
You've changed, Mia. You're being incredibly cold. After everything we've been through.
After everything, what, Ethan? Goodbye.
I hung up, tossing the phone face down onto my mattress. The screen continued to pulse in the dark. Ethan, Ethan, Cara, Devin, Ethan. But I ignored it. Outside my bedroom window, the low, mechanical rumble of an idling car engine vibrated against the glass. A dark sedan sat at the end of our cul-de-sac for nearly 20 minutes before finally killing, its headlights and rolling away into the night. I stared at the ceiling, my mind running through the physics of the past 3 lives, checking seatbelts and exits in my head. The next afternoon, the illusion of safety shattered completely. At 3 o'clock, the heavy thud of the front doorbell echoed through the house. I opened it to find Ethan standing on my porch, his face twisted into a smirk that made my skin crawl. He didn't say hello. He simply unlocked his phone and thrust the screen directly into my face.
You should watch this. Consider it a mandatory update to your travel plans.
The video started playing. It was my mom, sitting in her customized mechanical wheelchair. She had her usual soft blue blanket tucked over her knees, but she wasn't in our garden. She was on the concrete sidewalk right in front of Westlake High. The school sat directly on a heavily congested 4-lane road where traffic regularly flew past at 50 miles. Cara was right behind her, both hands gripping the rubber handles of the chair with white-knuckled intensity. With a casual practice movement, she rolled the chair forward until the small front wheels were hanging completely off the lip of the concrete curb. One small shove, and my mother would be thrown directly into the path of an oncoming semi-truck. On the screen, Cara leaned down toward the lens, her face occupying the frame with that eerie, flawless influencer smile.
Hey, Mia. Just an FYI. Tell your mom to pray you show up tomorrow. If you don't, accidents happen in traffic.
The screen went black. My hands went completely numb, the blood draining from my face.
Where is she? Where's my mother?
Relax, she's fine. She's still sitting there. Cara said she'd give you exactly 20 minutes to fix your attitude before she gets bored.
I stared at his smug, shifting eyes and his self-satisfied smirk. In that cold, clinical flash of clarity, I realized that Cara wasn't smart enough to orchestrate this level of psychological terror. This cold, analytical execution was entirely Ethan's design. Cara was merely the tool. Ethan was the hand pulling the strings. Ethan reached into his pocket and extended his hand.
Hand over your driver's license.
What?
The rafting company needs a verified photo ID for the liability waiver. Consider it collateral. You show up tomorrow morning, you get it back.
My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my wallet twice getting it open. I forced the chaotic panic down, freezing my face into an expression of sheer defeat. If Ethan wanted a compliant victim, I would give him an Oscar-winning performance. I handed over my driver's license. He snatched it, slid it into his back pocket, and pulled out his phone to call Cara.
Hey. Yeah, it's done.
The moment his back was turned, the submissive mask fell off my face. My eyes turned ice cold. I sprinted past him toward the main street, my mind frantically calculating the minutes. My mom was fine. A passing teacher had wheeled her back from the curb, but her blue blanket was crumpled on the damp ground where Cara had carelessly thrown it. She didn't cry. She just held my hand the entire ride home and said very quietly,
"That girl is not well, Mia."
An hour later, the three of us sat in our living room, the curtains drawn tight. My dad was pacing, his jaw working with a terrifying quiet rage.
We are calling the police, now. I don't care who her father is.
They won't do anything, Dad. It's a 4-lane road, but Cara will claim it was a prank. Her family has money. They'll hire a high-priced lawyer, and it'll turn into a messy, prolonged dispute that ruins my admissions timeline.
I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a clinical, persuasive whisper.
They took my driver license.
Because they want me trapped on that bus. They've planned something on that route. I can feel it.
If I refuse to go, Ethan will keep harassing us. But if I go on my own terms, driving up tonight and staying at the lodge before they even arrive, their setup will be useless. We beat them at their own game.
My dad stopped pacing. He looked at my mother, then back at me. He wasn't a regular security guard. He owned the elite corporate firm downtown with 2,000 tactical employees. His protective instincts overrode everything.
You're not going alone. I'm driving you tonight, and I'll be staying in the room right next to yours.
The morning of the trip, I was already 200 miles east, sitting in the sunlit breakfast room at Trail's Edge Lodge. I ordered a cup of iced hibiscus tea, taking a slow, deliberate sip as the morning sun turned the surrounding Blue Ridge peaks into a blazing sharp gold. Across the rustic wooden table, my dad was calmly working through a massive stack of blueberry pancakes. He was dressed in a casual flannel shirt, but his eyes never stopped scanning the parking lot through the grand floor to ceiling windows. My phone was resting flat on the table, buzzing relentlessly with notifications from the class group chat. It had been going crazy since 6 in the morning.
Bags loaded. Let's go, Westloke.
Road trip squad, who has the extra aux card?
Then a photo popped up. It was a selfie of Cara sitting at the front of the chartered party bus, throwing up a casual peace sign. The caption read,
Road trip squad! Where's Mia?
At exactly 8:30, her name flashed across my screen. I let it ring out completely once, watching the little icon dance on the screen. When she called a second time, I swiped to answer and immediately put it on speaker video, propping the phone against the sugar shaker. Cara's face filled the screen, her expression a perfectly manufactured mask of concern.
Mia! Oh my god, where are you?
The whole bus is literally waiting for you.
We're about to pull out of the Westlake parking lot.
I'm already here.
Cara blinked, her perfect eyebrows drawing together.
What do you mean? Where is here?
At Trail's Edge Lodge. My dad drove me up last night. We didn't want to deal with the early morning bus rush.
I flipped the camera around. I let the lens pan smoothly across the massive high-ceiling timber lobby, out toward the sweeping majestic mountain ranges, and finally settled on my dad. He lifted his porcelain coffee mug toward the camera in a polite, chillingly calm salute. Directly behind him, glistening under the morning sun through the glass, sat his black Range Rover. The audio from the speaker video became a chaotic mess of whispers as kids on the bus crowded around Cara's screen.
Wait, is that a Range Rover? I thought her dad was some mall cop.
Look at those keys on the table.
That's a master fob for a luxury estate.
The murmur built into a roaring wave of confusion. I watched Cara's face in the small square corner of my screen. The manufactured influencer smile was completely gone, replaced by an ugly, violent shade of crimson. Her cheeks flushed into two perfect, burning circles as if she had been slapped across the face in front of her entire kingdom.
Mia! What the
She caught herself, her glossed mouth snapping, being shut so hard I could hear her teeth click. She violently jerked the phone away from her face, trying to hide her expression. But the damage was already done. Every single senior on that chartered party bus heard the first half of the profanity. They had all just seen Cara Whitlock, the pure, soft-spoken prom queen who never raised her, completely lose her grip on reality for one full second. I took another slow, elegant sip of my hibiscus tea, letting the silence stretch across the line until it became agonizing.
See you when you get here, Cara. Drive safe.
I tapped the red button, cutting the feed before she could utter another syllable. My dad set down his silver fork, a faint, cold smirk playing at the edge of his mouth.
That was the first crack in her armor.
And it won't be the last.
I lowered my phone, staring out at the majestic Blue Ridge highway winding down the mountain. The first piece of their illusion had shattered, but I knew the real game was only beginning. Though I had severed the video call, I kept a clinical eye on the class group chat, watching the immediate, messy aftermath of Cara's public breakdown. The party bus remained, idling in the Westlake High parking lot, paralyzed by the sudden revelation that my paid seat was officially empty. For someone running a precise script, an empty seat wasn't a financial annoyance. It was a fatal system error. Through a live video feed Devin posted, I watched the confrontation unfold in real time under the morning sun. Cara's younger sister, Sophia, a 16-year-old sophomore, who had been begging to join the senior trip for a month, came sprinting across the asphalt. Her backpack bounced against her spine as she saw the vacant space.
Cara! Oh my god, you said if there was an open seat, I could come. Mia's not here, right? Sophia, get away from the door. Go home. But the seat is literally paid for. Why can't I said, go home!
The raw, frantic venom in Cara's voice pierced right through the phone's microphone. The entire parking lot grew quiet. Other seniors began to murmur, stepping in to defend the younger girl, pointing out that it was just one extra person on a paid seat. But Cara stood on the bus steps like a frantic guard, her arms spread wide to completely block the entrance.
Sophia, I am warning you. If you take one step onto this bus, do not ever call me your sister again.
Sophia's face crumpled in pure shock. She backed up, hot tears spilling over her cheeks, before turning and running blindly across the lot with her hand pressed over her mouth. I lowered my phone, the screen reflecting the stark, golden light of the mountain morning. My dad watched me, his brow furrowed with the analytical precision of a security expert.
What was that about? Why is she so terrified of letting her own sister take that seat?
Because she didn't just buy a seat, Dad. Whatever is waiting on that route, it's specifically programmed for me. And she knows it.
The 3 days of the senior trip went by with an eerie, suffocating normalcy. There were sunrise hikes, lakeside barbecues, and campfire gatherings, where Cara laughed just a little too loudly at everyone's jokes. Ethan spent the entire time watching me from afar, his gaze steady and predatory like a hunter waiting for a clock to run out. The whitewater rafting waiver had been pushed through because Ethan still held my physical driver's license. I went down the Snake Fork, with my dad paddling in the raft immediately behind mine. Nothing happened. And that was exactly how I knew the execution was saved. For the journey home, at noon on the final day, the chartered party bus pulled up to the lodge's gravel driveway. My dad's Range Rover was parked 20 feet away, its engine already purring. I held my duffel bag tightly in my hand, exactly 3 steps away from freedom. Cara stepped out of the bus cabin, blocking my path.
Mia, you're riding back on the bus with the rest of the class. I drove up with my dad, Cara. I'm driving back with my dad.
Ethan stepped up beside her, effectively cutting off my line of sight to my dad's truck. He smirked, casually patting his back pocket where my ID was hidden.
Funny thing, Mia, I still have your license. You leave with him, you're driving home without it. And once the rafting company flags the school about a missing liability signature, the principal gets involved. It becomes a whole thing.
It was a hollow, bureaucratic threat, a flimsy piece of leverage that my dad could have crushed with a single phone call to the district superintendent. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw the phone sliding out of pockets. Half the class was already lined up by the bus door, lenses aimed at us. Waiting for the president to break down, I slowly let out a long, heavy breath, letting the defeat show on my face.
Fine. I'll get on the bus, on one condition.
What?
I want your seat. Front row. Window.
The line of kids waiting by the bus door went dead silent. Cara's seat was sacred, a throne reserved for the undisputed social queen of the senior class. Asking for it wasn't just a relocation, it was a demand for total, public submission. Cara's left eye twitched violently, a tiny glitch in her flawless facade. Across the row, Ethan let out a dry laugh, looking immensely amused. He glanced at me, his narrow eyes dripping with self-absorption, clearly thinking I was desperately trying to force myself into the seat next to him. Then, to my surprise, a terrifyingly smooth smile slid back onto Cara's face.
Sure, Mia. Take it, if it makes you feel safer.
She surrendered it so easily that for a fraction of a second, a cold shiver shot down my spine. I climbed onto the bus anyway, stepping past Ethan's smug grin, and slid into her front row window seat. I pulled the seatbelt across my lap, the heavy metal clinking as it locked into place. But before I pulled the strap tight, my eyes instinctively flicked down to check the seat I had originally been assigned to. It was located exactly 2 rows behind me, the seat I would currently be trapped in if I hadn't demanded the trade. The safety fabric of that belt had been brutally altered. It was a clean, clinical cut, sliced 3/4 of the way through right at the plastic latch. A single sharp jerk from a sudden break would finish it instantly, sending whoever sat there hurtling through the air. I sat completely frozen in Cara's seat, my hands gripping the armrests. She had counted on me sitting back there. She had prepared the grave, but she hadn't expected to fall into her own hole. I slowly tightened my own functional belt until it bit hard into my waist. The road down from the Blue Ridge Wilderness Reserve is famous. It consists of 18 treacherous switchbacks carved into a sheer cliff face, bordered by a rusty guardrail that looks like it hasn't been replaced since 1972. Cara sat directly behind me in the second row. We were 40 minutes into the winding descent when I felt a chilling whisper of movement near my left hip, precisely where the seatbelt buckle clicked into the latch. Slender, trembling fingers were sneaking through the dark gap between the seat back and the cushion, pressing down with practiced accuracy on the plastic release button. I didn't flinch. I slammed my hand down, catching her wrist in an iron grip. Before the metal latch could pop open, the sheer panic radiating from her flesh was palpable. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I violently yanked her arm up into the aisle, forcing it into plain view of the entire cabin.
Everybody look at this.
Dozens of heads turned instantly, and the glowing lenses of smartphones rose like a sudden wave. The kids who had treated me like a charity case just minutes ago were now staring in collective shock.
Cara just reached over my seat and tried to unclip my seatbelt while we are navigating a cliffside switchwaff.
Cara's face drained of color, turning the ugly shade of spoiled milk. She offered a weak, stuttering smile as her eyes darted frantically around the crowded cabin, realizing her perfect reputation was disintegrating.
Oh my God, Mia, my hand slipped. I was just reaching into my bag for a water bottle. Your hand slipped? Over the high timber frame of my seat, down into the dark gap, and landed precisely on the mechanical release button of my buckle? On a blind curve?
The logic cut through her lies like a scalpel. For the first time in 4 lifetimes, the entire bus was whispering not about my poverty, but about Cara's madness. I didn't let go of her wrist. Instead, I tapped the screen of my phone with my free hand.
There are 3 hidden cameras recording this cabin right now. One in the seat pocket, one on my strap, and one on the dash. It's all going straight to a secure cloud server. Do you want me to play the playback for everyone? Let's see how many times you tried to unclip me before I caught you.
Cara went completely rigid, her eyes wide with a manic, cornered terror. 2 rows back, Ethan slammed his hands onto the seat in front of him and stood up. His golden boy charm was entirely gone, replaced by a desperate, ugly panic.
Sit down, Mia! You're being paranoid and you're scaring people!
She tried to kill me, Ethan.
Listen to yourself. Just sit down and let the driver do his job.
The bus driver glanced up into his rearview mirror, his face tightening as he saw the absolute chaos reflecting back at him. I finally flung Cara's hand away. She recoiled over the top of her seat like a bruised viper, her breathing coming in ragged, shallow gasps.
You're insane. That's exactly what you told me in life, too, right before the truck hit us.
She froze entirely. For half a breath, her brain short-circuited over the words life too. But before she could even process the psychological shock, the bus driver suddenly screamed, slamming his entire weight onto the brake of it. There was a sound like a localized explosion. The heavy brakes locked instantly. The massive 40-ton party bus jerked violently, throwing my body forward with brutal force against my functional seatbelt. Tires shrieked in agony across the asphalt as the rear end of the vehicle began to slide uncontrollably toward the jagged cliff edge. Through the cracked windshield, the nightmare materialized in a flash of bright yellow. A massive industrial counterweight weighing at least 400 pounds sat directly in our path on the blind switchback. If we had hit it head-on at full speed, the entire bus would have plowed straight through the rusty guardrail and into the abyss. The driver's reflexes barely saved us, stopping the front bumper a mere 6 inches from the solid iron. But the violence of the swerve and the brutal deceleration triggered the trap. Cara hadn't buckled up. She was sitting in the second row, occupying the exact seat with the sliced safety fabric. The one she had carefully prepared for me, counting on my body to be the one rejected by the vehicle. The partial cut snapped instantly under the momentum. She hit the front window like a rag doll, her body shattering the reinforced glass before tumbling onto the asphalt. I will not describe the sound. I will never describe it. When the vehicle finally came to a grinding halt, Cara was splayed out on the road 10 feet in front of the bumper. The yellow weight stood nearby like a grim monolith. Blood was already pooling beneath her hair, spreading dark and fast across the hot asphalt. The cabin erupted into hysterics, kids screaming, someone throwing up in the back. Ethan completely lost his mind. He shoved past my seat, scrambled down the stairs, and dropped to his knees beside her bloody form. But a few seconds later, his panic morphed into a wild, unhinged fury. He marched back up the steps, his face pale and twisted, and grabbed the collar of my hoodie with both fists, lifting me slightly from the seat.
You did this! You did this to her, you psycho!
I looked at him with absolute icy detachment, my hand locking around his wrists to systematically break his grip.
The seatbelt was sliced before I ever stepped foot on this bus. The weight was ordered and placed before we even checked out of the lodge. I asked for her seat in front of 40 witnesses. That is all I did. Tell me, Ethan, who really built this grave?
Before he could yell back, a blood-curdling shriek from the road cut through the cabin. Outside, Cara was pushing herself up into a sitting position. She shouldn't have been able to sit up. Yet, Cara was pushing her blood-soaked body into a sitting position on the road. One eye was completely swelling shut, and her perfect influencer hair was matted with thick crimson, but her fingers were tightly closed around a massive, jagged wedge of windshield glass. Holding it like a kitchen knife, she got to her feet and began walking toward the bus with a mechanical, eerie calm.
You just have to die, Mia. You just have to die.
Ethan let go of me, panic turning into a foolish instinct to stop her as she came up the bus steps with the weapon. I quietly stepped behind him. I didn't push him. I simply moved my body so that his large frame was between mine and her blade, like hiding behind a tree in a violent storm. Cara swung. The glass drove deep into Ethan's shoulder. He let out a choked, horrific sound, collapsing into the stairwell. That was when my dad arrived, having tailed the bus all the way down the mountain. He sprinted up the steps. His heavy boot caught Cara squarely in the chest with military force. She went flying back down the stairwell, hitting the asphalt and rolling. But she didn't cry. She lay on her back on the road, looking up at the sky, and laughed.
Fourth time. Fourth time, Mia, and you still won't die.
The cabin fell into a dead silence. 40 kids stared, completely unable to comprehend what she meant. Only I knew the weight of those words. My dad looked at me, a profound question in his eyes. I looked back down at her, my hands steady. The wheel had finally broken.
Don't scroll away. Click the video link to download DramaBox. Watch all episodes now.